It's a happy and blessed Thursday morning right here on Channels Television, and a day of gratitude as well. Good morning and welcome to your perfect day starter. I am Bukola Koka, and of course, I never do this alone. And Jeffrey, it's good to have you back.
Thank you. We're back to the mornings. As always, welcome to the program. I'm Jeffrey Uzama.
Jeffrey is back to the grind. Well, it's June the 27th, guys. By the way, I'm Kayode Okikulu. And it's just interesting because I remember Jeffrey saying it's the start of a new month, the last month in the first quarter, and you thought June was going to last for a long time. But guess what?
We're here.
Indeed, it's June the 27th. And you know what? I just searched through and I found that today is a global day for small and medium scale enterprises. And I thought it was, just ideal to commend those who have stayed the course and continue to do business, even though on a small scale in Nigeria, because we know that you're doing a lot of things on your own. You're probably, powering your company, however small, on your own. You're also providing water on your own. You're probably also paying some other persons, just to get the job done. So we commend your spirit of industry. We commend your tenacity. We commend your sense of commitment to Nigeria, particularly if you have not jackpot yet. So well done. We commend all of the small and medium-scale enterprises right here in Nigeria amid this difficult business environment.
Well, for me, two things on my mind. The first is quite exciting. Georgia beating Portugal yesterday at the Euro 2024. It made me remember 30 years ago when Nigeria went to the World Cup for the very first time and did the shocker. We are literally like, we're going to take this cup. We got here first, the first time, we're going to get as far as we can. You see them celebrating like they just won Euro 2024. Because when you beat a country like Portugal, that's a big deal. Ronaldo played, so let's put it on record. So some of the biggest guys in the game played, and so they were celebrating, and they made it to the round of 16, although Portugal also made it to the round of 16. So Georgia on my mind. Congratulations to all of them in Georgia. But the other part is not quite exciting. Quite unhappy what's going on in Kenya. I know you guys talked about it. I don't know what is wrong with African leadership and timing and reading the room. And we need to keep pushing that button on them to realize that not every form of opposition to your plan and purpose is necessarily a plan to get you out of power. People just got tired of being taxed. You're heavy on debts. You want to fix those debts. The people are saying, look, just reduce the cost of governance first, but you want to increase taxes, and things spiraled out of control. William Ruto, the president of the Republic of Kenya, did not have to wait for people to die before rejecting that bill. And those MPs, who, despite all that happened, passed the bill, well, the youth said they will remember. But it's just an example of what happens on the continent. I remember when EndSARS happened, at some point the former president was like, they were planning to remove him from power or something like that. I don't know. William Ruto did not read the room. Most African leaders sometimes don't read the room to know when to backtrack, at least to save lives. And now over 10 or 13 people or so have lost their life. For what? Just for saying, I don't want the bill. It's not acceptable.
And I think it's something we've talked about for quite some time. And it's quite ironic because a lot of those leaders get into campaign based on the fact that, or at least
the young people rallied for that.
Exactly, promise that will be different. Okay, we will give you democracy, the democracy you've been yearning for. Either it is progressive in this country or something else in another country. But that is usually the promise. But then they get to power and I don't know, they just blend in, as they say. I don't know if it's a function of the culture, the kind of government that we invented ourselves and what we're practicing now. If there's still that battle between the monarchy kind of, leadership where they say, Kabiesi, essentially, nobody should ask you. You can do whatever you want to do. But even then, there was some semblance of democracy, right? Because kings could be dethroned. They could, open the calabash and all of that. So it's always worrisome.
To even banish you.
Exactly, or banish you. So it's always worrisome. Why in 2024, You still have leaders, and it's not just in Kenya, not just in Nigeria. You know, you have these leaders, and Jeffrey said, that don't read the room. It's democracy, for crying out loud. You know what it means? Government of the people, by the people, and for the people at the heart of it. So if the people say no, you as a leader should say no resoundingly. If the people say yes, you as a leader should say, oh, my people say yes, and I'm going to go ahead with it. And we could go on and on about this, but hey, I think it's about time that people just realize that we are the government.
And you know, it's sometimes ironical, borrowing your words again, when democracy, particularly on the African continent, has not been able to guarantee development. And you could mention a number of countries where there have been coups: Mali, Burkina Faso, neighboring Chad, you know,
Niger.
The list goes on and on. But if you look to other countries, you know, so in other continents, you see that they perhaps have not had a democratic government for some time, but there is order in those countries, there is development in those countries, there is accountability in terms of revenue generation from some of their natural resources. You know, even in other African countries where they say that we have some benevolent dictators, there has been, you know, a semblance of development. So where is democracy? Where's the development in democracy that is supposedly for the people, by the people, and for the people? I believe it's something that we should all reflect on. And if democracy is perhaps not working, our leadership should rethink their approaches to this democracy and perhaps adopt, you know, other approaches to governance under the same democratic development, democratic template that we're practicing. You know, it's something worth thinking about.
Yes, well, that's not what we're talking about, Bukola. What are we talking about today? We just need to vent and let that out.
Well, while also venting, you know, constructive reflections are also key. Today, we touch on the public tertiary education sector as the challenges there are far from over. Unresolved issues get us talking again as members of the Academic Staff Union of Universities on Tuesday staged protests nationwide and warned of impending strike if government refuses to act on agreements signed with the union. Let's feel their pulse together, shall we?
Well, that's not all that's happening. Sometimes something else is also happening that returns to the front burner this morning. It's the challenge of flooding in Trademore Estate in Abuja. I know you know that estate. A perennial occurrence every rainy season that's upon them yet again. Recall that the Federal Capital Development Authority had declared the estate in Lugbe a disaster zone last year and promised to tackle it, but stating the obvious will be to say that nothing has been done yet. So this morning, we'll revisit the issues there and the other flood-prone areas in the FCT.
But that's not all. There's a brighter side of things, I should say, on the show this morning. I mean, what's a morning brief without a dose of hope? And there you have it. It's most definitely a season of dreams for trailblazers and the zeal to actualize them. And somehow these dreamers happen to be Nigerians. But this time, it is Joy Ebaide who has envisioned a solo bike ride from Kenya. I mean, not amidst the political issues, just from Kenya to Lagos. Yes, you heard that right. She is solo bike riding from Kenya to Lagos. So we'll ask her all the questions pouring through your mind right now. We can imagine them.
Yeah, like.
Why?
From Kenya to Lagos?
What's going on?
Not hopping on buses? It's a bike. I just can't get that out of my mind.
It's actually cool, though I don't like anything on two legs, by the way. Kayode is big.
Jeffrey, you're on two legs.
No, I mean anything that moves like that on two legs, apart from my natural legs. Because maybe apart from a bicycle, but a bike,
so there'll be rain.
I pass.
There'll be sunshine.
Kayode should
there could
answer.
be windstorm if you have to go through the desert.
If you want to experience true freedom, no, I'm not joking. If you want to experience true freedom, if you want to experience the thrill of the environment, come out of your vehicles. Come on, everyone is wound up with your air conditioner. You are recycling air. Get on a bike, well protected with your helmet. I mean, you feel the breeze, you feel nature. It's like nature is speaking to you. You're speaking to nature back. Well, until the trailer honks and at you.
I'll wind down.
You know what, Kayode?
Well, congratulations to her.
Take on the challenge next after Joy Ebaide. And I'm sure she'll be throwing it to you.
What's that?
You might want to accompany Cardi anyway.
No, I don't want those things on 2 legs.
All right, we're also keeping...
Good for the people who use it. Congratulations.
You see what a woman can do. Sometimes some men cannot attempt it. So we're also keeping a close watch on your reactions to all the big stories and perhaps, maybe enjoy Ebaide's challenge. So keep them coming. Your questions and comments are also welcome on our WhatsApp number that will show you on your screen shortly. Don't forget, you can also send your videos, which will verify and help to amplify your voices. The morning brief on Channels Television will begin to continue to unfold after this time out with the top stories. So stay with us. And welcome back. Top on the brief this morning is River State, where the government says the prime suspect in the explosion that rocked Port Harcourt, the state capital, on Tuesday, has now been found. The State Commissioner for Health, Dr. Adeze Ore, says the suspect was found at the River State University Teaching Hospital, formerly known as Braithwaite Memorial Specialist Hospital. In the meantime, the River State Governor, Simlai Fubara, told a visiting team of the Senate Committee on Privatization, led by Senator Ojuz Okalu, that the intention of the man was to blow up the Presidential Hotel, a highly rated hospitality facility in the state.
When a young man was brought to the River State University Teaching Hospital with alleged injuries sustained during what was said to be a road traffic accident, the medical personnel that were on hand to examine him and offer medical care were on alert and immediately recognized that the injuries that were seen on this individual were not in tandem with a road traffic accident and rather resembled injuries that would have come from blast. The individual was taken to the theater for immediate resuscitation because as at the time he was brought in, he was semi-conscious. But the medical personnel did the needful and immediately informed the River State government, immediately informed the Commissioner for Police in River State and the River State Ministry of Health about the presence of that individual in the facility, even when providing emergency medical care to revive and resuscitate him. He is currently stable. We are working in tandem with the River State Police Command, and so the hospital has been fully secured. The premises and the perimeter have been fully secured. The patient is undergoing current medical treatment. He is stable, and the police is doing their own part with carrying out the necessary investigations. Several individuals brought the patient. One is still with him, and all the others immediately found their way out of the facility. But of course, like I said, we are working with the Nigerian police force and they will be carrying out their own investigative role.
And in Kaduna State, the immediate past governor of the state, Nasir El-Rufai, has filed a fundamental rights suit at a federal high court sitting in the state capital against the State House of Assembly over allegations relating to misappropriation of state funds during his tenure in office. In the suit filed through his lawyer, Abdul Hakim Mustafa, a senior advocate of Nigeria, Malam El-Rufai is asking the court to declare the report of the Assembly probe null and void, having been denied fair hearing over the allegations leveled against him by the committee.
I'm here with Malam Nasir El-Rufai to file an application to enforce his fundamental rights. As we're all aware, the Kaduna State House of Assembly set up an ad hoc committee to investigate loan and other activities of the former administration. A lot of witnesses were called, and they did hearing and they admitted a lot of documents. But strangely, Malam Nasir El-Rufai, who who apparently was the target of the investigative committee, was never invited. The law is very clear. Everybody deserves to be given a hearing. The right to fair hearing is a natural right that inures into every human being. Malam Nasir Rufai was a lot of allegations were made against him. He was not given a hearing at all. As a law-abiding citizen who believes in the rule of law and who believes that when there are infractions, you need to approach the court, he's here today before the Federal Court to enforce his right that every infraction they allege, he was not given an opportunity to state his own side of the story. And the law is clear about it. Any proceeding, be it court or quasi-tribunal, that it didn't give the parties concerned a hearing, the whole proceeding is void ab initio. And that's why we're here.
Now, a check on the cholera outbreak as the Nigeria Center for Disease Control and Prevention, NCDC, has announced 53 deaths from cholera out of 1,528 suspected cases across 31 states of the Federation. 29 of the deaths occurred in Lagos, which has 579 suspected cases. The federal government, which has activated an emergency operations center, is asking residents not to panic in the face of the 2-week-old outbreak, but to take precautionary steps.
So far, we have not been able to identify a source yet, but the investigations are continuing because we want to see if we can identify a particular source or sources. But moving forward, we're going to keep active surveillance around our water sources and the distribution of beverages in Lagos State.
And as Nigeria joins the rest of the world to mark this year's International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Drug Trafficking, President Bola Tinubu is pledging additional support for the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency and DLEA to curb the menace of substance abuse in the country. The president, who was represented at the ceremony at the banquet hall in Abuja by the secretaries to the government of the Federation, Senator George Akume, gave the assurances of the federal government to assist the NDLEA to reduce the statistics of people who abuse drugs and substances in Nigeria by mobilizing funds.
I enjoin all and sundry to support the War Against Drug Abuse Initiative, otherwise known as the WADA campaign, launched by NDLEA 3 years ago. I commend and urge everyone to redouble their efforts to combat drug abuse and trafficking in the country. On this score, we wish to reassure you of this administration's support. The renewed hope agenda places the youth at the center of its focus. Therefore, we shall ensure that our young people are protected from anything that could derail their future or destroy their potential. The assignment before us as a country requires that we prioritize evidence-based prevention strategies, allocate adequate resources, and foster partnerships. This government will support NDLEA to build on the success recorded in the past few years.
And the Nigeria Governors Forum on Wednesday met at the Forum's Secretariat in Abuja. And top on the agenda is the issue of the new national minimum wage, local government autonomy, and the MC Cares disbursement to states. The meeting had in attendance some governors and deputy governors, including the governors of Zamfara, Oyo, Anambra, as well as the deputy governors of Borno and Delta State. This is the first time the governors are meeting after the tripartite committee on the new national minimum wage concluded its negotiations 2 weeks ago. And outside our shores now, Julian Assange has landed back home in his native country of Australia after a plea deal allowed him to walk free from a London prison. There were emotional scenes at Canberra Airport as the WikiLeaks founder kissed his wife and hugged his father, his lawyers watching on, visibly moved. Julian Assange needs time to recover to get used to freedom, and that's according to his wife, Stella Assange, which she revealed at a press conference shortly after her husband arrived. And for the past 14 years, Assange has been in a legal battle with U.S. officials who accuse him of leaking classified documents, which they say put lives in danger. The 52-year-old did not attend the news conference in Canberra, instead letting his lawyer and wife speak for him. And in sports, it was a dream start for Georgia in their European Championship encounter as they have advanced to the knockout stages for the first time, upsetting Group F winners Portugal 2-0 to qualify as one of the best third-place teams. Georgia produced a shock on their group stage debut, scoring with both of their attempts on target to beat Portugal in front of 24,425 fans in Tbilisi. Turkey are also through after late 2-1 win over 10-man Czech Republic, while Romania, Belgium and Slovakia had earlier secured their passage from Group E. And those are some of the big stories of the day, some of which may form the talking points today. But what are your reactions to the big stories? Jeffrey joins me now for a review of some of them.
Absolutely. Of course, our job is to track your thoughts as what you're saying across X. And let's get straight to business, which is one of the things that happened yesterday. Although there was a statement from Dangote refinery saying that it was a minor fire. So an effluent treatment plant, as it is said, that this affected. So for those of you who don't know, there was a fire outbreak at the Dangote refinery yesterday. But the statement came out from the company saying it was not something to be alarmed about. So they say it affected their effluent treatment plant. An effluent treatment plant, ETP is called, is basically to treat wastewater before it's discharged into the environment or is reused. So, but these were reactions. Afamifuna says, this is not good news at all, something that is not yet fully functional.
Well, Afamifuna, you got your clarification from Jeffrey. It's not a fire that has that much implications, and we're grateful for that because it's a public infrastructure. Now, this next one is from Jeremiah Adetunji, who says, this is too early. No heavy equipment in that facility that should have less than 10 years warranty.
That's a good point, by the way. That's a good point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ugochukwu_96 says, this is really sad. I just hope no life was lost. Yes, no life was lost, according to their statement. I also hope it's not the Nigerian factor at play here. I don't think so. According to their statement again, a lot of funny things happen in this country.
Well, and the next one is from Adeni 178, and then the number goes on. But he says, this is sad and unfortunate. I hope it was put off on time. Well, it was, according to reports, right? Safety is a must for every company. This is going to be a freak setback for the refinery, but the company has clarified that indeed it's not a setback.
Yeah.
But safety, of course, according to Adeni,
absolutely,
is a must for every organization.
At least I know a line in that statement. It's a very short statement that says no cause for alarm. So let's take it for what they say. Okay, let's move on now to the conversation we had earlier. It's been an ongoing one after so many days or some days of protest. President of the Republic of Kenya finally withdrew that very contentious, it moved from contentious to vexatious finance bill because the country is in debt. They are trying to ramp up as much as possible in terms of liquidity. So they have to look inwards rather than borrow. What do? Let's increase taxes. The young people say no, cut the cost of governance. And there was a back and forth. It escalated, those disagreements escalated to the point where the protests turned violent, people were killed, and eventually the MPs, the member of parliament, like our own National Assembly, still went on and passed that bill. The president said, I ain't going to sign it.
Jeffrey.
Henry the Navigator, this is your reaction to what is playing out in Kenya. Thank God he has listened to the voice of the masses. Other leaders should learn from Kenya's president.
Absolutely. Other leaders from other African countries should learn from this approach, this reaction to public policy that is unpopular and does not augur well for the well-being of the people. But this next one is from Christian Uchenna, who says, congratulations to Kenyans. The battle is won. The people have won. May the soul of those who passed on during the struggle rest in peace.
Absolutely.
And that was needless. People didn't have to die.
People did not have to die for President William Ruto to do the needful. But at the end of the day, it has happened. I hope that something will be done to the families of those who died. But as it has been put aside, they can't talk about that bill for the next 6 months at least. before they can begin to reconsider. So they have to look inwards, maybe sell some of their private jets if they have any, reduce cost of governance, just look inwards as much as possible.
What's the size of the cabinet?
Yes, at the end of the day...
Some ministries need to be merged. Those are the issues.
At the end of the day, the young people move from just the tax issue to the issue of good governance. They're even asking Ruto to go and all of that. That's what happens when people are discontented. They look for a trigger and it becomes something that escalates beyond what people can control. But we're happy that you listen to the people. Moses Amolo says, but sir, Parliament is in recess. The bill will automatically come into law after 21 days. I don't know what you mean. Unless Parliament is called from recess and rejects the bill or withdraw it. The parliamentarians actually took to their heels at some point, because... Oh, Africa, we're wonderful.
Does any recess, preclude a withdrawal of the bill? I really do not understand his logic here.
I don't know which parliament he's talking about. Anyway.
Well, this next one is from Mr. Ebony, who says, the people of Kenya won. A people united for a purpose cannot be defeated. Shame on the MPs who laughed at the protesters at the beginning of the protest.
Yes, it was very shameful, some of the things that the officials were doing initially, taking it for granted. But that's the people's power. Section 41, which is my favorite section in the whole Nigerian constitution. I feel that it should be taught from primary school. Section 14 of our constitution says the supremacy belongs to the people. Section 14(2)(a) also belongs to the people. Maybe other claims belongs to the king or queen, but here, and in most African countries, it belongs to the people. So when the people scream, you must listen. Let's go to the next one.
Okay, let's just go to the next one, which is about, the former governor of Kaduna State, immediate past governor, in fact, to be precise, who has filed a fundamental rights suit against the State Assembly over the 432 billion naira probe report, which is, by implication, they've accused him of, financial misappropriation, and so many other accusations in that mix. So your reaction, starting with Queen B, saying, what is he afraid of? Why should someone not want to clear his name, instead want to block and obstruct investigation?
All right, for context, he said he wasn't given fair hearing. He deserves to be heard.
And, the State Assembly members admitted that he wasn't invited, but that cabinet members who work under him were the ones invited and interrogated. So on that score, he has filed this suit.
Comrade_Lucky1 said, let him go and clear his name if he feels he's innocent. Meanwhile, Kaduna people must get their money back. That's your proposition.
And Salisu A. Ibrahim says he was reportedly not invited to say his own side of the story. Yes, we covered that during the investigations. If this is the case, then it's against the principles of investigation. So he's earned the right to seek redress in court in order to be fair and just to all the parties involved.
Cranium says, a welcome development as long as facts and figure, proof and documentation evidence will be presented in court.
Yes. And Ibom Air Clients says the Kaduna State House of Assembly wasted time. They could since have approached and mandated the EFCC to arrest El Rufai and charge him with the embezzlement.
Well, it's an allegation, so it has to be proven. This has nothing to do with whether he's guilty or not. It's just about fair hearing. That's why I filed it. This one says an offense to release. Okay, I think, what's it? Nigerian Film and Video Censors Board.
NFVCB.
Yes, talking about classification of skits and videos, and said they have to clear with them whether you're a skit maker or making videos.
Singer, an artist.
Nigerians are reacting. Sheyi says it will be easier to hold the platforms accountable for the circulation of unlawful content on their site. Abi, they want to chase every person that posts on social media. They just like stress.
Well, that indeed comes with a lot of implications. If they have to clear with the NFVCB, does that also mean that there'll be some form of clearance fee attached to it? And, the administrative implications as well. But Binkin says classification is good if done effectively. We want a society that's sweet for all. The social media sure needs some dusting to achieve that.
David, your name is @_DV or Davy. They don't even control anything. Nothing that is aired on the internet is really restricted, so I can view stuff made in any country of the world. I see no point.
And Master says, This is the standard anywhere, including the advanced countries, but we do operate with a lot of anomalies in this country because even the leaders are not serious one bit. Any public visual content should be rated and classified. That's the standard.
Absolutely.
And that's it from what you're saying as far as these stories are concerned. But there's more to talk about, and that'll be after this break when we begin with the public tertiary education sector. What are ASUU's demands? Let's review them together. So join us again. We'll be right back.
Touch base with our ivory towers this morning. It's vital to our nation's development, but over the past couple of years, some would say even decades, the institutions have not been living up to expectations. Or they say government has not lived up to its own side of the bargain, and the back and forth has been going on. At the receiving end, students, young Nigerians, whom we always call the future of our nation. But ASUU has been busy of late. There's been a meeting with the minister, we understand, and while we're looking at labor as a whole, the NLC, TUC, see their next line of action regarding minimum wage. We wonder what will also come out of ASUU's, call it negotiations or meetings with the federal government. So this morning, we thought it's important to bring you up to speed with what's going on in that sector so you're not caught unawares. We have joining us on the program this morning the president of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU, Professor Emmanuel Osodeke. He joins us virtually on the program. Good morning, Prof. Welcome to the Morning Brief.
Thank you. Good morning.
I think we should just start from that meeting said to have held between the Minister of Education and the leadership of ASUU, which, of course, you are the helm of affairs. Speak to us about what that meeting was meant to cure, particularly the big question which a lot of people always ask, are we on the verge of a possible strike yet again?
Thank you very much. The meeting yesterday was between we and the Minister of Education and his team. You know, this government came in May 2023, and between then and now, we have never had any formal meeting to look at the issues for which we have been on a struggle since 2009, and today. So what we met today, yesterday, when we met today, to look at all the issues that are involved. There are 10 of them. Renegotiation of agreement, payment of withheld salary, payment of people's allowances and salary withheld by IPPIS, payment of consequential adjustment, amongst others. These were the issues we discussed with the minister yesterday, and on each of the issue, we will now design a way forward on how this issue can be implemented, and that's what we did yesterday. So, and then we put a few committees together on some of the issues, and we're meeting soon again to look at what they have done, and then we start move forward from there. So,
is that a no to that question? if we're on the verge of another strike? Because I remember in May, ASUU released a statement that, well, got a lot of people worried. Well, the word strike was not used in that statement, but ASUU said, we're going to take action. So is this trying to curb ASUU from taking that action? Is that a possibility? Is there a time frame that you're giving to government on this so we all know what to expect, Prof?
Well, like I said, the process of reaching an agreement, it does not have that done one day. Because for my members, they want to see some action taken. The payment of the 33.5 month salary has it been paid? The pay distorted by IPPIS have they been restored? Any academic allowance that have been there for a long time has it been paid? When is government signing the agreement we reached with Nimi Bridge Committee? So these are the things we discussed with the minister yesterday. And you also know that he's also was not part of that period. So we agree they should take time, look at it, implement those they can implement immediately, and then we'll meet in the next 4 weeks to now see what they have implemented, and then we'll brief. But from this one, we'll not brief our member appropriately, and then they can advise us what to do next. As we, as union, normally do. Decisions are taken from up down. We don't impose decision on members. So we'll go to our members, they will advise us on what to do next.
So I imagine for a lot of Nigerians, they're trying to compartmentalize what ASUU is doing and then what the NLC, the TUC called organized labor, what they are doing as well. So is this unrelated? Is there a relationship between this? I know that ASUU has spoken about what the TUC and NLC are fighting for, but how do we properly compartmentalize this such that people know, again, what is going on? Looks like the connection is frozen yet again, but it's important really to speak to these things. We know how important our tertiary institutions are. In that statement that ASUU put out last month in May, spoke about how we have up to 200 or thereabouts, and what we've seen from those public institutions are underwhelming, to say the least. So it's important to understand what ASUU is fighting for this time around vis-a-vis what the NLC and TUC, what they are fighting for as well. So we're trying to reconnect with Professor Emmanuel Osodeke. They had a meeting with the Minister of Education and his team yesterday. So he says, well, from what it appears right now, there is no strike or action in the offing because there's been a time frame to that effect. So students watching right now can at least heave a sigh of relief, albeit for 4 weeks till we see what is going on. So as we try to reconnect with Professor Emmanuel Osodeke, there you see those demands that ASUU is making of government establishment, or rather evaluation and signing of the renegotiated agreement between the parties, that's ASUU and the government, earned academic allowance. UTAS is actually there. Again, you understand what IPIS did, or at least the unresolved issues with IPIS. And of course, there are other issues on that.
And there's also, Kadi, funding for the revitalization of public universities, which is very important because ASUU has spoken time and again about the poor state of infrastructure in public tertiary institutions. And, you know, that speaks to the role of TET Fund, the Tertiary Education Trust Fund, which is, set up to bridge the infrastructure gap in Nigeria's public tertiary education system. So you would wonder, where's the justification for the huge sums of money that has been allocated to those, to that fund, and why we still have non-functional laboratories in Nigerian public tertiary education institutions, and how well indeed is the leadership of the union or maybe the leadership of the institutions now working with TET Fund to ensure some form of accountability and the proper distribution of the funds to public tertiary institutions that should be receiving those funds. So those issues are very critical, and we hope that we get the president back to be able to speak to some of these issues.
Absolutely. So there were other issues as well. If we can put it up yet again at some point, the proliferation of universities. Literally, there are so many people getting licenses, from individuals to maybe faith-based organizations or other people trying to get licenses, just like we have with radio and television. I don't know what the standard, the minimum standard should be for someone to start a university, but ASUU apparently is quite uncomfortable with that position. In their position, I think they are trying to say, look, rather than the multiplicity of this university and all of that, what should be is the quality of this university in terms of infrastructure, in terms of all the things that is needed to run a proper institution. Some of the things we deal with, universities can resolve it, but our universities are not, quote and unquote, well positioned to do the best they can to add to development of society, just besides just churning out graduates every other year. Research is a major part of setting up an institution. In fact, at a certain level as a lecturer, you should focus more on research than even lecturing because of the need of different sectors of the economy for what your expertise are or expertise is in that particular field. But we see a situation where we've seen what they call publish or perish. People just do it just for promotion, inadequate resources in terms of financial resources, in terms of infrastructural resources. So perhaps it's why ASUU is making all of these calls, and which the federal government has to, pay attention to. Guys, I was just looking at the time, 2009 to 2024. Bukola and Kayode, it's 15 years also. One of the questions that I want to ask...
a child born at that time, by the way, Jeffrey, is due for the university in another 3 years.
Some have even graduated the way, or planning to graduate. These ones, they skip classes these days.
You shouldn't graduate university at 15. That's an anomaly.
Some people, I know it's not the right thing. It's not the right thing, but we see those scenarios play out. People graduate at 16, 17. So it's not far from it. So, and every time ASUU comes out with this protest and all of this, it really hasn't worked. So I don't know what they would do differently. Whether they would graduate or scale, I don't know. Maybe I'm trying to look for the word now to see, okay, maybe we need, say, 2 trillion to cover their bill. Can we spread it in 5 years? They negotiated that at some point, but different governments failed. I think the Buhari government at some point tried, but couldn't meet up at some point. The Jonathan government started off and left it off at some point. So finance is a major part. Our budget is in deficit, by the way, of almost 10 trillion naira. So everywhere we look, it's almost like a very, very hard situation. So perhaps it's a situation to sit down with government. I like what they've done. How far can you go? Because if you don't go that far, we will hit the streets.
Again, I just want to latch onto that point you made about the, would they call it proliferation of universities? For some, it's proliferation. For some, it's we need a lot more universities. All of the public universities cannot take in, the graduates, secondary school graduates, right, or the school sets holders. So you need more schools to absorb them. But the challenge of ASUU, what ASUU is saying, if we have almost 200 public and private, they say about 79 plus is private owned, while 40 plus is for state and federal. ASUU is saying that you find out that politicians are now bidding to get licenses for themselves. And you can just imagine what that scenario will bring up. But we understand that Professor Sodeke is back with us right now. Prof, we lost you momentarily or for quite some time. Good to have you back. And the question we were putting across to you is trying to compartmentalize what ASUU is doing with what the NLC and TUC are doing as well. Because I remember in that statement which you put out in May, you had spoken about the minimum wage and how the federal government needs to sit up and do something decisive. You gave a 2-week ultimatum that you're going to take decisive action if some of those issues you raised were not resolved. That was in May. So speak to us, how do we compartmentalize what ASUU is doing and what NLC and TUC are doing right now?
Thank you very much. There is no relationship between the two. NLC is on a struggle to get a living wage, or that is minimum wage for Nigerian workers. Which level do you don't have to go below for all Nigerian workers in the public and private sectors. And we are an affiliate of NSC, and we are with them on that also. We are with them on that. So when they had the one-way strike, we also joined because we are part of Nigerian Labour NLC. But for us, we are talking about the academia, the university. Like keep on saying, is the environment for teaching and learning good in Nigerian universities? If it is good, you don't need to be told. You see foreigners coming to Nigeria as students. You see foreign lecturers coming to Nigeria to lecture, as you have in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and early 90s. Or just like when you go to any country in Nigeria in the world today, you see a Nigerian man lecturing, Nigerian lecturer teaching. But you don't see any people coming from outside to Nigeria. The reason being that they are better catered for in those areas compared to what you have here. In Nigeria today, a professor goes home with between $300,000 and $350,000 a month. Between $300 and $350 a month. The same professor in Nigeria, he goes to other countries, to South Africa, he earns about $5,000. So those are the reasons why we are on strike. Let's bring our university to universal. A university is universal. The same university you have all over the world. BSc in Nigeria should be a BSc in England, should be a BSc in China, BSc in Russia. There is no difference. And that is why we are doing this struggle. To bring our university to at par with university in Ghana, the Nigerians are flooding to, even Benin Republic, because the condition of our universities have deteriorated, which we also, the government agreed with us in 2012, when the report of the need assessment report was presented to then President Goodluck Jonathan, and we found out that the university are so dilapidated. In the university, stove was being used as Bunsen burner. Students sitting in the bare floor to have lectures, which should not be good for the general of Africa. That's why we'll be struggling to bring it at par. It is because of this, and we found any political office holder, whether you are a minister, you are a governor, you are a president, you are a legislator, once you enter the office and have access to this public fund, they send their children abroad. But we want them to come back to this country. You don't see the children of this people in this country. That's why they are not bothered about what happened in the university, because their children are now here. I'm so sure if the president of all Nigerian political office holders, those who control our economy, from the president down to the governor, if their children are in Nigerian universities, they will not treat us the way they are treating the Nigerian university today. That's where we are. So we want to, with Nigeria, to do like the Kenyans are doing, ensure that our leaders bring their children back home. Let them attend this university and see what will happen.
Prof, maybe the ASUU, through other people, may have to put up a bill and suggest to the National Assembly, let's see how that plays out, because you have a strong point there that if it concerns them, maybe they will do something. But my question is, from our calculation, this is 2024. From 1999 till 2024, I think ASUU has gone on about 16 or so strikes, which in terms of days, I calculate it in terms of days, it comes to over 4 years of this 24 or 25 years. 4 years of students being at home and lecturers not going to class, insisting and demanding for one thing or the other. But after that number of years of not being in class, and after 25 years of our democracy, this is where we are. Where do you think this move you're making will actually make a difference?
Thank you very much. If not for these our struggles you have just mentioned, if not for these struggles of ASUU, we will not have public university today. Go around this country, do you still have public primary and secondary schools? When you go around all the universities you have today, Polytechnic College for Education, all the projects you see there carry the name TED Fund, or need assessment project, need assessment. That's what you see. And they are the product of the struggle of this 1999 and today, like you talked about. If not for that, we will not have it. Today, 95% of Nigerian students are still in the public universities because of our struggle. Any day we give up like others, our public university will be gone. So those periods you have talked about, we have made a lot of gain for Nigerian universities. Any governor today establish a university, is eyeing TED fund as a source of funding. Federal government established university like it was done in 13 universities in the same day. They are all funded by TED fund, which is our product. If we didn't do that, we will not have it today. So we are very proud of our struggle. And everybody, enter any university today, you'll be proud that academics that have fought for this country. So that is what we have done. But the struggle is still not over yet. If they have implemented all those things we agreed on, we will not be where we are today. But like I said, they are not interested because their children are not here. Their relations are not here. So we are proud. But let me also tell you, 4 years, yes, if you calculate 1999 to today, the number of months and years I should have gone on vacation, as it was in the 70s and 80s, is more than the 4 years. So I've sacrificed my vacation, my holiday, for this nation. So I have also more than the 4 years. So when we are talking about 4-year strike, we have also come back and sacrifice and leave our holiday, our vacation as we used to have in those days, to ensure that we have a good system. But the government had to also do its part. And I will tell you why. Where we are today, our universities. When you take the average budgetary allocation to education in West Africa, the least country, apart from Nigeria, is 15%. But we give between 4 and 7%. The giant of Africa give between 4 and 7%. But others give between 15 and 20 and 30%. So that is where we are today. But let me tell you, we're getting worse. Because as of today, University of Lagos spend almost between 280 million naira to 300 million naira every month now on the new electricity bill. Uniben is the same thing. This first generation, Ibadan, ABU, they are all the same thing. How much do they get from the government as a running cost? You need to get less than 50 million a month. Your electricity bill alone, not diesel, 280 million. So they will shut down. When you go to municipality, no more light, but they cannot afford it. So it's even getting worse. And we hope that this government will step in and let resolve this issue. In any country that look down on its education, that country is creating room for crisis. And that's where we are today. If all these young men and women doing all sorts of things you see today, we're well educated, have access to job, we don't have the crisis that we have as a nation today. So we must look at our education.
Prof, you've spoken significantly about the intervention of TET Fund, which I'd like to follow up on. But let's quickly touch on the disposition of the federal government to your demands. Speaking of which, I'm trying to ask what you perceive in terms of reading the room. We know that in the last administration, there was really no love lost between the leadership of ASUU and the former Minister of Labor. But what are you perceiving now in your interactions with representatives of the federal government, particularly after your meeting with the Minister of Education this time around? Does it look good? Does it speak of a quick resolution to some of the demands of ASUU? Maybe not all.
Well, thank you very much. The problem we had with the last regime was with one person. One person created all the problem. And that then Minister of Labor, Dr. Chris Igige, who, while we are still the Minister of Education, he went and hijacked the process and do all sorts of things. And that's how we got there. But this one, we met with him yesterday. Like I said, we had a good discussion. But for us in ASUU, until we start seeing action, that is when we can appropriately assess such a person. But we are not seeing action. When we start seeing action from what we discussed today, when we meet him, we start seeing action where we can now be able to assess that person and say whether it's in support of our struggles for a better education system or not. So we need to wait. We have talked. It was a good discussion, friendly discussion, but we need to see actions.
All right. So you've attributed the preservation of some aspects of tertiary education in Nigeria to the role of TET Fund. But still, there are challenges with infrastructure in most public universities. And relating to that, there's been allegations against TET Fund that it allocated 2 billion naira to spurious contractors. I'd like you to speak to this. How effective has this fund been in intervening in the area of the infrastructure deficit in public tertiary education system?
Well, thank you very much. TET Fund was created as an intervention fund, not the major source of funding. The university belongs to the federal government, and that government is supposed to fund them, and state government will fund their own state. But it's also been an intervention project. But I agree with you, and we agree, and we are working that with the new ES, that there are, how do I put it? People who want to have access to that money from us, from the political circle, from the bureaucratic circle. There are people who want to have access to the money at all costs, and we are also struggling with that. We want to create a structure that will have for the need assessment fund, where the stakeholders will be involved in the process of how the money is allocated, how it is spent openly, and how the project, and monitor that project, how it moves. And what do I mean by this? That at the university and polytechnic and college level, there should be stakeholder meeting before we assess what you want to do with the fund. And the stakeholder will include the university community, the deans, the HODs, the unions on campuses, including student union, because it's part of their, this should be part of this team that we meet to say we should use this fund for X, Y, Z. Now, in some cases you see today, somebody comes from the third fund and say, I have a project for you, and I'm going to be the contractor. We want an open project. Or it's a substitution where Bureau of Public Enterprise will just say we are giving certificate of no objection. That should not be the way. Every university governing council should be allowed to run their project with the stakeholders involved. So that's the work we are struggling for as part of this our struggle.
Well, on a final note, Prof, the university governing councils, we've seen some new appointments, and I just want to know, I imagine this came up in that meeting with the Minister of Education. Are you now okay with the governing councils as they are?
Well, we are not okay with it, but what we are initiating is that in all our universities, we are going to ask our members there to examine those who have been appointed, look at those who are not qualified, and those who have issues, and then we can come together and send it to the minister so that they can take action. We are having some issues already in some of the universities, where, for example, you are appointing people who are raw politicians, people who contested governorship and failed, people who are ex-commissioner, ex-senator, ex-governor, and as member of governing council. We believe that is detrimental to the university, because they will look at it as a political appointment. But member of council of university, they are not political appointment. So if, for example, if you are a chairman of a council, you are going to a meeting, you are going alone. Nobody will fund any other person. But when you put a governor, who are a former governor at it, when you come in for such meeting as usual, you want to come with entourage. That will put stress on the universities. So, and so forth and so on too. You pay them because what you pay a governing council is just sitting allowance, which is a peanuts for the position and consign. So they want to come in, they want to put pressure. So we believe that people who will give to the universities, people who have idea of how they can generate funds to run universities, those are people who are thinking to be a council, not as what do you call it, honorable this, honorable that, and what have you. We didn't want to see all those honorable and what in the this thing. But that's what you have found. But we are doing something on that, and we discussed that yesterday, and we agree on the way forward.
Because, I mean, looking at that list, you see former international chairman of APC, BC Akonde, Wole Olanipekun, Issa Yuguda, former governor of Bauchi, and the rest. You even find Adebayo Shitso on that list. So we'll see how this pans out. But we'll have to thank you so much. And I think we also need to pay attention to the students as well. Some of them are not even seeing why they should be in school in the first place. But we'll have to thank you so much, Professor Emmanuel Osodeke, who is the head of the Academic Staff Union of Universities. Thank you for your time. We wish you the very best.
Thank you.
We'll go to break now, and when we return, the floods are here, and they are impacting lives, families. There is a particular estate in the nation's capital that has been sort of declared a disaster zone. It's like a yearly scenario for them. But what is the situation of things, and by extension, where you are right now? Stay with us right here on The Morning Brief.
Welcome back. It's now time to head to the nation's capital, Abuja, talk about Trademore Estate. For those who don't live there, that area has been, susceptible to all kinds of flooding year in, year out, whenever the rains come. And this has become a contentious issue between the people resident in that estate and the government. I'm talking about the FCT authority. That's why we're exploring the issue. We're being joined in the program by the spokesperson of Trademore Residents Association and the chairman of that estate, Mr. Inemesit Udofia. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you very much.
All right, I understand you're the spokesperson of the chairman of the association, so I'm sure you have all the details. For people who are not very familiar, this is national television, so maybe walk us through what's been going on with this recent flood and why this is always a recurrent decimal.
Okay, thank you very much for this opportunity. The issue of flood in Trademore has been a recurring issue. And as residents of that place, we've been able to, take our plight to all the necessary, bodies addressing this issue. And as early this year, around February, the Ministry of Environment called a stakeholders meeting where all the parties, associated with anything flood within the nation were addressed. They came together. And we looked at the issue of flood in Trademore Estate holistically. And one of the major issues that was agreed on was that with some engineering, structures in place, all this can be corrected. And nothing was made mentioned about demolishing of houses. Demolition of houses is never a solution, to, cropping the issue of flood within Trademore Estate. Trademore Estate existed as far back as 2006, and we've been living there without flood incidents not up till 2014. Now, the cause of flood in Trademore Estate is not within Trademore, but the adjoining estates that are developing, houses around Trademore. They happen to channel their waterways into Trademore. Now, as residents of Trademore, we've done our best, to curtail these issues. We have carried out a lot of activities, which includes the drainage of the flood channels, carrying out some construction of retaining walls. We've done a lot to do, to crop this issue. But we are using this medium now to call on government, because from the communique that we had from Ministry of Environment, there were short-term and long-term, remedies to these issues. Now, on the part of the residents and the developers, we have fulfilled our own side of the bargain. But we are using this opportunity to call on government to also come in and intervene, because they are the ones that will really, salvage this situation. Ecological Fund carried out a project around that area, and there is a bridge that was constructed just in front of Trademore residents. Now, that bridge happens to be the major challenge where flood, keeps reoccurring in Trademore. The waterways is actually, blocking, or the bridge is blocking the waterways from, carrying water out of Trademore. Once water is obstructed, the next line of action is for the water to bounce back and to start accumulating. So this is the cause of the recent flash flood that we just had in Trademore. And we are, appealing that government should help us address these issues so that we'll put an end to all this menace.
But some are saying that people had built on floodplains, places where they are not supposed to build. I want you to speak to that, because you're saying demolition is not the answer. So perhaps the people who are calling for demolition are saying you're building on the wrong path, so it has to go so that the waters can find its path.
Okay, as regards that, the director of NEMA was on ground in this recent flood, and from her statement, she noted herself that the flood pattern has been diverted away from where residents are living. Now, the standard is that any estate developing should give at least 20 meters away from the waterways. And Trademore has done exactly that. She made that comment even in a report that she did, that she has noticed that the floodplain has been diverted away from where residents are staying. So I wonder why, having seen that and having, noticed that the flood has nothing to do with where residents are living, why then go ahead to recommend demolition? So these are the issues that we are saying, because the last year demolition was carried out within Trademore. Some houses, were demolished. Those places are now, causing a very huge nuisance within the estate, because we are finding it difficult to manage those areas. So coming back to demolish over 100 and something houses, according to our own speech, I mean, it's total waste of government resources. So we have called on government, all the different parastatals that looked at these issues, they came to the conclusion that with an engineering solution, these issues can be addressed. And that's why we are calling on government to come and assist us.
Now, Mr. Enemesi, besides the position of the FCTA that some of the structures in Trademore Estate are built on floodplain, I remember last year the executive secretary also said that a lot of the structures did not have approval. And you also said at the beginning of your commentary that some of the challenges that you're currently facing is that some other neighboring estates are building such that they're channeling their drainage systems into Trademore. Now, during the meeting that you had early this year with the FCTA authorities, were these issues tabled? How are those estates, residents in those estates and their developers securing approvals to build structurally wrong, development, so to speak, that is also having implication for Trademore Estate?
Yeah, that's one of the issues that we, took to government, because we called on development control, we called on all FCT, ministry as a whole to look into the issue of approvals. If you notice, most of these developing estates coming in after Trademore, most of them are actually building their houses along the waterways. If you go to the back of a Trademore where we have estates like Director's Estate, they are building their houses along the waterways. And these estates were given approval by probably development control, or I don't know where they got the approval from. So these are the issues that we've been telling government, that if anything needs to be demolished, let them start from those new estates that are actually building their houses along the waterways. And once that is done, the water will be constrained, and water will always find its course. Once the repercussion is what falls back to Trademore. Trademore was the first estate that, came up within that area. And we have our approvals in place. The developer has all these, that area was handled by AMAC before FCDA took over. And all the approvals for that estate is in place. So I wouldn't know, why, government is, towing that line that we don't have approval for our development.
Well, just to state that we had reached out, of course, to the government side, the FCT Emergency Management Department, but the representative declined to show on this. But let's speak to now what the FCTA has done, or had done last year, which is declaring that area a disaster zone. And the implication is that people affected or in that area are meant to evacuate. Now, that was done last year, and as you said, this is a yearly thing, literally. And we had hoped that after last year, we'll come back here and say, well, finally, we found a solution to it. So speak to us. After Trademore was declared emergency zone, some demolitions were carried out, which you say is disturbing the estate now. First, is Trademore still a disaster zone? Did people evacuate as a result of that? Or people are choosing to stay put because perhaps they think this is the only thing we have anyway? I hope you got my question, Mr. Enemesi.
Yeah, I didn't get it. Please come again.
So my question is that last year, the area was declared an emergency zone. And by implication, people have to evacuate. The FCTA declared it an emergency zone. So I'm trying to find out if that is still the case today, if from your interface, you're still viewed as an emergency zone, if people have evacuated or they're choosing to stay put, understanding that we're not even at the worst of the floods just yet.
I didn't quite get you well, but if I did, I think you're asking why government, designated that area to be a floodplain.
An emergency zone. Last year, the government declared the area emergency zone, asking people to evacuate. So I'm asking if people are evacuating or they are staying put, and what will happen when the rains even get worse.
Okay, well, like I said, I don't know where they got the source of that information from, but Trademore and its environment is not a, there is no threat to life or properties. It's not an emergency zone. Now, we've lived there for over 16 or 18 years now. And this thing happens probably once in a year. And just last year was the one that really impacted much, which made us, to take our plight to Ministry of Environment and all the government bodies, addressing these issues. And when they came on board, the solution was that evacuating or demolishing houses is not the solution to that issue. Rather, if government put in place the necessary infrastructure, then those issues can be addressed, and people will live there, happily without any issue. So please, that's why we are calling on governments to assist us on that line.
Well, I just wanted to say that this was actually said by the Executive Secretary of the FCDA, Shehu Ahmed, last year, that is around July, that the area has been declared a disaster zone. That was the word that was used, a disaster zone. So just to put that in proper context. Jeffrey.
Okay, I want to follow up on that question. I know that I read somewhere where recommendations were made that diversion can start for these waters from, I think, local Goma and Yakasa area, maybe the upstream part, to make sure that this doesn't happen anymore. So let's start talking solution. You've had this conversation with the authorities, and everybody from that estate seems to be saying demolition is not the answer. So what then should be the phase-by-phase approach to see that this doesn't happen again or is reduced to a point where it's negligible?
Okay, first and foremost, government need, to fulfill their own side of the communique that was given by the Ministry of Environment. Now, what government needs to do, first and foremost, Ecological Fund needs to come and reposition that bridge. The bridge that was constructed along that Trademore is one of the major source of, flooding in that area. That bridge is not positioned rightly. So once water comes, it hits on that bridge and bounces back to Trademore. So we've called on them to, get an engineering drawing that will address that situation. And then, like you rightly said, water coming to Trademore is coming all the way down from Lugogoma, Aleta, Lugbe, and even after Trademore, it extends down to what they call this estate, one other estate across the road. Now, all those areas are actually areas where water passes through. So if government wants to handle this thing holistically, then they should start by, stopping most of the estates that have built along those floodplains, thereby giving water its way to pass naturally. Once those avenues are created for the water to pass through, then we won't have anything like flood within or around Trademore.
Now, Mr. Nemesis, there are reports that 2 persons have died, amid this flooding. And I wonder, if this is worth it, the stress, the loss of property, this loss of life, is it worth it? And you may have to confirm that report also.
Okay, so I would like to note here that that information was a false alarm. Even the director of NEMA confirmed when she visited the scene that there was no loss of life. I wonder what people will stand to gain, spreading false rumor about a particular area. The incidents that happened on the 24th was just a flash flood that affected the entrance of Trademore Estate. It didn't affect any life. No life was lost. It didn't affect any property.
Pardon me, did you say the flooding did not affect any property? Because we saw the flood taking over houses. How do you mean did not affect any property?
Yeah, those houses were evacuated since last year.
Right.
We had illegal occupants occupying those places, and they've been told to evacuate that place. So those places were already marked for demolition, because Ecological Fund marked the entrance of that Trademore gate that we should shift it to another area to enable them carry out the correction of that breach which is around that area. So the developer did his own part by evacuating the residents of that place and all those things. We are just waiting for Ecological Fund to come and start that project.
Right. So if I get you correctly, what you're saying now is that as things are now, there needs to be no more demolitions, because the ones that are meant to be demolished have been marked. And from this flood that we saw, it didn't affect where people actually stay. Is that what you're saying? So they can maintain status quo as it is right now?
Yes.
So the question then is, if this is maybe clear enough to at least the residents and all, so what is the government side of things? What is the FCTA or FCDA saying regarding this? And you've talked about Ecological Fund coming to start a project. Will that come in time before the floods get even worse, or this will be after the floods? I'd like you to speak to that, the government's response, and then the timeline for this Ecological Fund project to begin.
Well, I can't say for sure when that project would actually, start. But part of the communique, the report that the Ministry of Environment, tabled after the meeting we had this year, was that government will look into, approving funds for the reconstruction of that bridge, and also carrying out some construction activities along the drainage path to, put an end to all this incessant flood. Now, it was stated there that this will be communicated to the different government agencies and then money will be raised for that project. When it will actually start, I can't say for sure. But on our own path, we are following up with them, and we are using this same medium also to call out that they should also come, through with their own promises.
All right, Mr. Anderson. So let's put some facts around this particular conversation. How many houses are in Trademore? I mean, buildings.
Trademore Estate has well over 2,000 houses.
And then the one the government is planning to earmark is how many?
What the director of them has said, she mentioned about 115.
So by your estimation, do they stand to obstruct anything, or would they help in any shape or form because of that opposition to it? Because I'm thinking that for government to earmark over 100 of those buildings to go down, they would have, in their reasoning and wisdom, seen that it's a solution to the problem.
Well, in the words of the director of NEMA, she came on the 24th after the flash flood, and she noted that the waterways have been diverted away from the residential area where residents stay. So I wonder why demolition will still be a solution when she herself noted that the waterways has been diverted away from where residents are staying. So you can see from that her own statement is even contradicting what the reality of
the reason I'm asking that. The reason I'm asking that question, my apologies, is because we need to put the facts right. If the government is insisting, are you saying for a fact that no building in Trademore Estate is of any, is not affecting the issue of flooding, or not pushing up the issue of flooding as is being put forward by the government here?
Yeah, the buildings in question affecting any activity of flooding are the ones by the gate, the entrance gate where this flash flood actually occurred. And those houses have already been evacuated. In fact, if you visit that very place right now, you've seen that we've gone ahead to remove the roof and put that place up for demolition. We are preparing that place for Ecological Fund to come in and start the reconstruction of that bridge. That's the only property that should be demolished. Other than that, where residents are staying is far. We have well over 30 meters, to the flood area. So the flood area is not affecting the residents in any way. And as such, demolition is a a no-no, solution to that issue.
There's another part I wanted to speak to, which we found out that some estates around Trademore some estates have come up in that area. And the people in Trademore are blaming the erection of those buildings as part of the reason why water is coming into Trademore, is affecting part of Trademore. In your view, should those places be up for demolition as well?
Yeah, this is the cry we made to government, that if they want to demolish, they should actually visit those estates and find out if they have actually built, developed their estates in line with the regulations, that 20 meters should be given on each side away from the drainage path. Now, if you are coming into Trademore, you will notice a bridge just by Wisdom Estate. That bridge used to be very active with, flood water flowing 24/7. But if you go there right now, as we speak, you won't see a trace of water. Now, we have some estate behind us that has actually blocked the access of that, bridge, and that water now is being channeled through Trademore. So you can imagine all the waters coming from Lugbe, from, Voice of Nigeria, all those axes. The volume is what passes through Trademore. And we have done our best to ensure that the drainage path created accommodates that water. So if at all demolition should be done, let them start from those estates that have developed along the waterways, thereby constraining that waterways and allowing water to come into Trademore.
So that keeps recurring, your response to our questions. But the question is, what's the disposition of the residents of those estates as well in this conversation, particularly as it affects Trademore? Are they willing to give? And I'd like you to also speak to this. You said earlier that there's a bridge that gathers rainwater during the rainy season and empties into Trademore. Does that not speak to the location of Trademore on a flood channel?
No, because like I said, those estates have actually gone ahead to block that drainage path.
All right. Almost, thank you so much for your thoughts, and we hope this will be resolved. Mr. Inomesi Tudofia, the spokesperson of Trademore Residents Association Chairman, so that this can, maybe by this time next year, we'll not be talking about this as much as possible. So government and the chairman and everybody concerned should come to the table to resolve this as looking like an impasse, some sort of, but we know it has a solution. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you very much.
I'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll go to what we consider the lighter side of things. Join us again.
To you now, stand by.
Welcome back. So let's ease the nerves this time around, shall we, as we look at the softer side of things. There is no telling the power of resolve to actualizing a dream. And we're peeping into what may have informed the dream of our next guest now to embark on a solo ride from Kenya to Lagos. Yes, you heard me right. A solo bike ride from Kenya to Lagos. That's from East Africa to West Africa. So welcome with us this morning, Joy Ebaide, a singer and biker. She joins us via virtually. Good morning and welcome, Joy.
Good morning. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so we saw you earlier and on the screen, and I was looking at you with so much respect right now. So,
oh, wow.
Yes, indeed, because it's no mean feat embarking on a solo bike ride. It's not a bus, it's not even a vehicle, which also has its challenges. A car, rather, not on four wheels. So tell us why you're deciding to do this.
Okay, I decided to do this because I felt the need to feel something. I don't like routines. The everyday life doesn't appeal to me. I like something out of the ordinary. I like to be alive because I had an experience in the past that almost led to my death. And since then, I've resolved to live to the fullest, to see the world I live in, because I know firsthand how truly short life is, and I want to make the most of my life. And that's exactly why I'm doing this.
Would you like to share that experience with us?
Okay, well, when I was 23, I had an accident that I rolled over on my back and I had a bone pushing against my spinal cord. And for several months, I couldn't walk. I was on the wheelchair. I lost my legs. It was really bad until I did a surgery in an Indian hospital in Abuja, and that fixed it. But I live with the pain every day. I live with the scar. I live with screws and rods holding my spinal cord together. And I love challenges. I love things that convince me that I am more than just the accident. I am more than just this human. I can do more if I set my mind to doing it. So yes, that was the experience that preempted everything that has happened after that.
Interesting, very interesting, and commendable also, Joy. But who decides to build a house and does not count the cost? How much more, embarking on how many kilometers now? Is it 1,000 kilometers?
Almost 12,000 kilometers now. I'm at 11,900.
You're already at 11,900?
Yes, I'm about 13,000 now, but I'm removing the kilometers I had before I started. So now I'm at around 11,900.
Fantastic. So you're coasting home already. So did you take stock of all of the requirements that you needed to put in place before embarking on this journey? And what were they? Where were those things? Help us understand the challenges that you have gone through already.
Okay, so before I started, of course, I got a lot of information. I'd begun planning this since last year. I already knew I wanted to take this trip after buying the motorcycle, and I started planning. So I had a lot of information. I bought a lot of things for my journey. But interestingly, over time, over the journey, I have sent back a lot of the things that I packed, especially my camping things, because I needed something lighter. The more I travel, the more I realized that traveling lighter is better for me. Minimalism is a mindset. Needing too many things is also a mindset. And then when I sent back a lot of things, life was easier. The challenges I've gone through, too many. I've gone through too many challenges because I am a solo rider, and not just a solo rider, the weaker gender, as people put it. So because of that, it has been to my advantage and to my disadvantage. I've gone through a lot of security issues. I even had a snake jump on my head in Tanzania. That was a gruesome experience. I've had issues with my bike, having to fix it, getting stuck, and so on. But in all, it's all been an adventure. Every challenge, everything I've gone through has been an adventure. On screen now, I'm watching when I left Kenya. On this day when I was leaving Kenya, I knew I had the dream, but I didn't dare to think of the end because the end seemed too bleak, too far away. I can't believe I'm beside Nigeria now. It's just surreal. It's unbelievable.
Okay. we do not envy you at all. And as Bukola said, this is a dream for some people. For some other people, it's a no-no. So I'm going to start from the first question Bukola asked you, which is the motivation. Because I need to bring in an angle that I've heard some people bring in. They're like, these rich kids, they don't have anything to do with money. So she's just thinking, let me go from Kenya to Nigeria. First, are you a rich kid? Do you agree with them? People would think, why is this what you're doing? Of all things in the world, why this?
For starters, I'm not a kid. I don't have parents. I lost my parents when I can't remember their faces anymore even. So I grew up taking care of myself, my brothers, we took care of ourselves. I work every day. I'm traveling every day. Every night when people are sleeping, I'm working. During the day, I'm riding a bike. I seldom sleep. I am not a rich kid. I am working very hard for everything I'm getting. While I'm doing the traveling, I'm still doing social media, doing everything. I seldom sleep. I am hungry all the time. Even if I have money to eat, I don't have the time. My management has done a lot. I'm always stranded, getting stranded over and over again. There is nothing rich about me. There's nothing rich about me. My bank account is red. I am not a rich kid. I'm only living life. I love to live and I'm living life whether or not. Money is just material. Money comes and goes. Money is not a factor here. Living my life is the factor.
So there you go, to all those who have shared that sentiment. Please, attention, as they always say in emails. But let's talk about your journey first. Where are you right now?
This morning, I'm taking a ride to Douala. I'm in Yaoundé right now, the capital. And it's crazy here. It's like Oshodi, Lagos. Oh, my gosh.
Okay. So, fantastic. So you're close to home, literally. So you started from Kenya. I'm trying to look at your trip now. Started from Mombasa, you went through, then went to Uganda. Am I correct?
Yep.
From Uganda to South Sudan.
No, that was the initial route.
Why?
Because I decided that my head is more important than the journey. I thought I wanted to keep my head.
Exactly, because South Sudan is not a joke.
No, it's not. So I changed routes. I started from Kenya, Mombasa, got into Uganda, then Rwanda, Tanzania. Second round, I went to Zambia, Angola, crossed the ship because land ended and it was sea. So crossed the ship into the Republic of Congo, now Cameroon, then Nigeria.
Because I know your original plan was to go through the Trans-African Highway, as it is called. Yep. And you know, it's quite interesting. I mean, for you, this is, living life to the fullest, doing what you love to do. But it's interesting that we can actually pick some real life issues that we need to fix in Africa. We can pick it from your journey. Talk about intra-Africa travel. How tough it is to go within Africa. I mean, if you were to travel in the EU, and I'm not even trying to compare, if you were to travel within the EU, I mean, some tell you how enjoyable, how easy it is. You don't have to worry about a lot of things, whether you're a man, woman, an adult, or a kid. But for you, I mean, you've just said you had to avoid some routes because of that. So if you were, and I mean, a lot of leaders are watching right now, from your experience so far, what are those things you want them to fix about Africa? And it's quite interesting because you start from Kenya. We saw the protests, or we're seeing protests in Kenya right now. So speak to them, please, Joy. What are those things they need to pay attention to other than what they've been paying attention to?
For starters, it's a shame that with my black skin, being African, the people I was getting information from, the European overlanders I've gotten information from, they can enter these countries way easier than I can with my passport, with my Nigerian passport. This has lasted over 4 months because I've had to apply for visa into every country individually. If I had traveled in Europe, for instance, I would have needed one visa. In West Africa, I would just need a visa. Here, around this place from where I started, it's only Rwanda I didn't get a visa from, and of course Cameroon. I would wait for visa, go to the embassies, apply. There was a time I applied, I paid, that didn't even work out with an agency. The money was taken. I've gone through a lot with visa, my time and everything. It is just really bad how we Africans are not borderless. It is ridiculous. I've suffered for visa so much. Then the roads. There are some countries that have great roads. Good. But with my 2 wheels, I've had it great because 2 wheels go anywhere. But it would be easier and better if the roads were better. It would be easier and better if the government of some countries would pay more attention to federal roads. Roads are called federal. It would make a lot of sense if more attention is paid to that. those are the two main challenges I've gone through that I can think of right now. Yes, but the visa, oh my God, I really wish it could be fixed. Having to get visa for Africans to go into African countries. Come on.
It's quite sad. You're not the only one complaining about that. Loads of people have complained about it. I remember Africa's richest man, Dangote, was talking to one of the multinationals. I've forgotten the gentleman's name. And the gentleman can actually travel through Africa more than the richest man in Africa because of this visa issue. And it's just a sad commentary. I hope the authorities are listening to fix this. But let's talk about the food. I know you're not big. You're not a biggie on food. But somehow, I'm sure you stop by to munch a thing or two. In terms of variation, you're moving from Mombasa to mainland Lagos. Walk us through the food journey.
Okay, so I kind of moved to Kenya in 2022, and that was where I bought my motorcycle and started this trip from. I struggle with the food there immensely. Now, if I was from any other country but Nigeria, maybe I wouldn't have struggled so much. But Nigeria has so much food. Oh, so many tribes, so much food. And then you go to somewhere and they're eating chapati. In my head, chapati is bread. I'm sorry, but chapati to a Nigerian is just bread. And in Kenya, they don't do breakfast, for instance. They just do bread and tea. In Nigeria, as a Nigerian, I want full food. I can eat Ebaide in the morning. But in East Africa, oh my God, it was such a struggle. But moving down, Tanzania was a bit better for me. Tanzania had more food. But when I got to Angola, it got better. In Angola, I saw palm oil. I saw plantain. I'm like, oh my God, plantain, Nigeria, here I come. It was so good. Then here, when I started getting to Congo, I saw a Yoruba speaker. He told me where they sell amala in Point Noah in Congo. I'm like, oh, great. In Cameroon, I went to a Nigerian restaurant. I have jollof rice right here beside me. So it was when I got to Angola, it started getting better for me with food. The blandness started reducing. But in East Africa, East Africans know. They already know that we struggle, we can't struggle with their food.
Fantastic. I'm sure you have songs to write from these experiences. And you're a singer also, by the way. And that gets me curious about how you're raising funds for this trip. Maybe you could also want to tell us how much you've spent so far, up until you get to Lagos. Just in case, there are other people watching you right now and they say, oh, if Joy can do it, I can do it. So is it from your, the singing side of your career that you're raising funds for this? And how much have you spent, if you're willing to tell us?
I would think about whether or not I'm willing before the end of this answer. But let me start with music. I actually started music last year. I am still very new in music, so no funds are coming from music. I work at night. I have a job. I have a normal job like everybody. I work with a company in the Netherlands. I do that at midnight because it fits better with my time. Okay, so I'm on break. I've been on break this past 2 weeks because I wanted to use this last 2 weeks to concentrate on the travel. So that's for singing and for raising funds. How much have I spent? Okay, traveling with the motorcycle is supposed to be cheap, but when you think about the fact that I have stayed in a guest house or hotel every day for the past 4 months, I am in a guest house right now. Every single day for the past 4 months. With a camper van, for instance, I have a camper van in Kenya. If I travel with that, for instance, I only have to go, I could wild camp, I could go into camping sites. I started going into camping sites when I just started the first, say 3 weeks, but it was hard because this is the camping site right now. It was hard because then when it rains, it's hard. Then when I'm packing in the morning to start a trip, I'm already fatigued from packing all the camping stuff that it's tiring riding. So I stopped camping totally. I sent back my things. So because of that, accommodation has been crazy. Fuel, because I'm traveling from one end of one country to another, I spent so much on fuel. Then the amount of money visa has taken from me. There are some times I use an agency. I've applied for some by myself, but just a few, because to be more guaranteed, sometimes you need an agency. So money has been taken, visa has taken so much money. So if I were to, I cannot exactly say how much I've spent because I haven't been calculating. It's intentional because I would lose my mind. If I know how much I've spent on this journey, if I know the figure, it would make me go crazy because so I have not calculated. I know how much I've earned, how much I've withdrawn within that time, but I have not calculated. But of course, it's thousands of dollars so far.
So I'm wondering. I want to go back to that question that Bukola started with. I know you talked about that accident. I'm curious, I'm asking myself. Someone who had issues around the spine should be a bit more careful, but he decided to be a risk taker. I'm curious, what is going on?
I'm just a crazy person, I think. Sorry. Anyway, what is going on? A lot of people have said on the internet that I'm being given a second chance and I'm misusing it, but that's their interpretation, because in my head, I'm interpreting it to me making the most of my second chance. I think if the creator would see me and be like, oh, I'm so proud of you, you didn't waste your second chance. I have seen a lot. This trip only got popular because I put it out there on the internet and it's a motorcycle. I've been traveling for a bit. I have traveled on a tricycle, on a keke. I have done a lot of things in my life. This only got popular. So since after I got fixed and I could walk, I started living life. So this is me living life. This is me being alive. Yes, I could fall and something could happen. It's an unforgiving machine, the motorcycle. But I've taken so many measures to make this work out. I started at less than 2,000 kilometers under my biking like belt. I only had 2,000 kilometers when I started. That was all I knew in biking. I still don't even know how to ride a motorcycle, a bicycle. But I've tried. I've taken measures to mitigate the risks. I am very responsible. I know something could happen, but if it were to happen, it's meant to happen. And if it were to happen, that's okay. And another thing is I'm not really hurting anybody. I am by myself. And yes, I have management, I have friends, but I don't think I would really hurt someone so much if anything were to happen. But the truth is nothing is going to happen. I wouldn't stay somewhere and be too scared to live my life because I have screws and rods at my back. No, I want to live life because I have screws and rods at my back.
AKA, don't hate, emulate. Really, she's living her life. She's doing what she loves to do. So maybe we could take a leave from that. Everybody, find what you love to do. Find what makes you breathe and absolutely do it. I mean, looking at those images, it's funny. You got the bike last year, am I correct?
Yes.
So you started learning last year and you didn't wait. I mean, I ride a scooter, Joy. I ride that scooter. You know, there are levels to this. There's a scooter. Yes. There's the usual commercial motorcycle, and then there's the bike, right? So I am like way below food chain, and I know how much I am worried right there on the road, particularly when you see vehicles driving anyhow, or you see even motorcycles riding, or even trailers and the rest. But you are going all out across country. So I want you to walk us through your scariest moment. Have you had a scariest moment that you are like, well, into your hands I lay my soul. I've done this. Did you have any scary moment? How did you come out of it? I saw a video where they were trying to put your bike on a boat in Angola, and your heart was in your mouth, like, don't let it drop. But what was your scariest moment so far?
I'll say my scariest moment was in Tanzania. On this day, I resolved, I was like, if I would die, I hope it's painless. If I don't make it past today, I hope it's a painless passing. So I entered a national park in Tanzania. I'd been told it's a national park. Of course, before taking a trip, I already know what the road is like, so I already knew. I asked questions, and I was both, like, it was the middle of the forest, right? So I kept going, only for the snake to recoil and just came up. That was the scariest moment, maybe of my life, probably, because at that moment, I just thought it would jump. Like, I had such thoughts like to jump on my neck or something. And when I went past it, throughout that ride, because it was off-road all through and many hours, I think I got to the hotel eventually at 9:10. I had someone else help me out much later. But throughout the time I was in the forest, the fear was crazy. So it wasn't even only about the snake attack. It was the fact that my heart could have given in the whole time I was riding in the forest, because after that happened, I was waiting for basically anything. I must have done the best ride that day, because there were times I was supposed to fall off-road because the road was bad. My bike did not drop. For at least 6 hours, my bike did not drop, and I was going fast. I resolved to leave. I didn't know how much I needed to leave, like how strong my will to leave was until that day. I made it out, and that was the scariest on this trip so far, I'd say. Yeah.
I hope people can take a leaf from that, really. I just have goosebumps all over. I just want to quickly ask before I give this to Bukola, would you advise me to try that, or anybody at that, to try what you're doing right now, Joy?
I would advise Okay, this is not for everyone. Not everyone has the heart, has the mind to do this. This is crazy. Let's be honest. This is just crazy. If you want to do it, then you have to be ready. I would advise anyone who has the heart to do it to try it. It's trial. If it doesn't work out for you, if when I started in Kenya and it didn't work out for me, I'd have stopped. If it doesn't work out for you, fine. But if it's something you think would help you live, would help you feel alive, drop. I'd say you should try it.
Okay, when are you going to be arriving in Nigeria?
On Saturday, I should arrive at the border on Saturday. Some bikers would meet me up there, but then I can't arrive in Lagos on Saturday. So Sunday, I should arrive at my destination, which is Lagos on Sunday.
So at the end of the day, what do you want people to get out of this experience for you? Because for you, you're living your life, but people are inspired. And maybe if there's a message you want to put out there, for people, what will it be?
Okay, so this is travel. This is just travel. But to me, it's more than travel. People see me on the motorcycle going from one country to another, and they think it's about that. No. After this trip, my life will change. There is something that has shifted in my head. It's a great mindset shift. If I can't do it, then I'm not ready to do it. If I can't do it, then my mind is not ready to do it. Anything I set my mind to, I can do it. If I can do this, I can do anything. If anybody's going to take this out of this, whatever you are into, not travel, not necessarily travel, anything you are into, that thing you wanted to do, that step you've always wanted to take, that fear is crippling you, you can't do it. Just try. Because the truth is that time will pass anyway. This past 3-4 months, if I hadn't started, I would be in Kenya practicing U-turns and say riding to the supermarkets every day. The time still would have passed and I wouldn't have done this splendid, formidable thing. So that thing you are too scared of, the time will pass. Try it. It's trial. If you fail, it's not a failure. You've just learned that you shouldn't do it that way and you try another way. Keep trying. There is nothing you can't do if your mind is ready to do it.
Amazing. As you spoke, I was imagining a lot of things that could have happened as you rode in the forest. Your bike could have, developed a fault. You could have run out of fuel. I wonder if any of those things happen. But, beyond that, we're glad we're having this conversation with you and we can see you. You are hale, you're hearty, you're vibrant. They say travel is another kind of education. So tell us what you've learned, from this experience about Africans, particularly also the lessons that Nigerians can learn from what you have, gathered in terms of knowledge from all of these countries that you see. Okay, I've learned that the world is wicked, but not that wicked. The media, things we see online, make us know that the world is wicked, especially Africa. But it's not that wicked. I've found kindness. I've found favor, mercy. Anywhere I go to, people smile at me. People want to help me. Anybody who sees me, they want to do something good for me. They want to do something into my life. They want to be a part of this. Africa is beautiful. Africa is kind. Africans are great. Yes, the media says things happen, and things truly happen. But there is also kindness in the world. Humans are humane. They are kind. We can take that away from that. We don't need to be so scared of ourselves because people are good, people are kind. People see other humans as actual humans. And Africa is a community. I feel like this scheme brings us together. It's a community of great people. There is so much togetherness. And what Nigerians can learn from this is that we are all one. We are all saying the same language, even though it's not the one that comes out of our mouths. We all understand laughter. We all understand dance. We all understand greatness, sweetness, kindness. So yes, I've learned a lot about Africa. Oh my God, I've learned a lot about Africa. I've learned a lot about motorcycling. I am so different from the person who left before, who started this journey. I've learned a lot. And if anybody's going to take anything away, it would be that you can do a lot. You can do anything you want to do in this world as long as you have the will to do it.
I was going to say that maybe Nigeria should send you to space since we already had that agreement. Maybe you should be the one who's... Do you mind, Joy? Do you mind us?
I don't.
You don't mind,
no,
right?
I don't.
You'd love to be the one to go to space. Nigeria. So this is what we'll do. You're arriving in Lagos on Sunday, right?
Saturday.
Yep.
No, you're arriving in Nigeria Saturday, Lagos on Sunday. So what we'll do is we'll have you on the morning brief on Monday with your bike. so Nigerians can see in real time that Joy has done this amazing stuff. But I'm tempted to ask, so Joy, would you be returning to Kenya after this, or can we detain you in Nigeria? Because I noticed some people were trying to collect your number on that trip. You didn't tell us. Some men were trying to toast you. So, so are you staying back in Nigeria, or you're going back? You're going back to Kenya after this?
So I'll be in Nigeria for a bit, say 2 months, and then I'll start Nigeria to Morocco. Nigeria to Morocco will be so much easier because I won't be needing visas, and then I won't be paying into tourist sites as a white person. So yes, it would be much easier. I'm doing Nigeria to Morocco starting August. That's my plan now, August, September.
Wow, amazing, amazing story, amazing journey, and equally useful lessons that we can all learn. Thank you very much, Joy Ebaide, singer and biker who has achieved a feat already. Even though you have not arrived Saturday, we've already seen you in Nigeria. And we're looking forward to having you on Monday.
Thank you. I'll be there, definitely. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Guys, Joy has thrown you the challenge, so you better take it on.
How many of us are taking on this challenge?
I skip.
Come on, Jeffrey. I mean,
no, when she comes to the bike, I'll mount the bike when it's not moving.
No, Jeffrey, no, don't do
then
this
when I come off the bike, I head into my car.
No, don't do this to me, Jeffrey.
In case I need that fresh air from nature, like Coyote wants to say with his scooter, I wind down the fall.
It will never hit you in your face.
And wait, now I'm not done.
It won't hit you in your face, Jeffrey.
Then I enter Lagos Ibadan, head to Long Bridge. On 128, okay, let me not say that before Mrs. Kisha will say.
Well, Kade, you already ride a scooter, so shouldn't be too much of a challenge.
So what I'll do for you guys, I'll give you lessons. You know, learn to ride a scooter. They'll we'll start from maybe Oshodi to Berga, and then we'll build it.
On your scooter?
No, you will get yours too. You know.
Kade, thank you, but no thank you. Joy has done that on my behalf, so I've achieved the feat already.
But I think what is intriguing about her for me is her resolve.
Right.
So this wanted to kill me. I'd rather kill it. Just attack the fear. She literally is attacking the fear, and I think it's a lesson for everybody. But I think we have some messages on WhatsApp. Okay, this should be from X. The ASUU FG disputes. This is from Atinuke_TK saying, universities should earn what they need by charging fees, doing research and admitting students from other African countries. The government, on its part, should provide low-interest students' loan to deserving students who show academic potential. I know the government has a students' loan scheme, by the way.
That's the Nile Fund, and I understand that they had to slow down for the states, so that's been postponed. But yeah, absolutely, Nile Fund. It'll be good to see what comes out of that.
And this one is from Professor Imonoka Inakina, who says, we need government that is bold enough to shoulder or honor the financial impasse of past and present agreement between ASUU and the federal government. It doesn't have to be this way. Government needs to be open to a truthful and transparent approach in resolving the issues crippling the education sector. And it would be, another world record when this ASUU issue is resolved, because it's 24 years, Jeffrey, by your calculation.
15 years of this, the agreement, but in 24 years, they've gone on strike for at least 16 times, which comes over 4 years cumulatively. I did the research, I did some math.
So the agreement was 2009?
The agreement was 2009. This agreement, so renegotiation, on and off. And they paid, I think they were supposed to pay about 1.something trillion, some tranche were paid, and all of that. It's a long story. It's a long story.
But that's where we anchor today. Thank you so much for being a part of the show. If you don't remember anything from today's show, remember the words of Joy. You can do anything if you put your mind to it. So go out there and do great stuff. I'm Coyote Okikulu.
And don't forget, Sunrise Daily is up next. So stay with Channels Television. Join us again tomorrow. I am Bukola Koka.
Your company is always appreciated. Thank you for watching. I'm Jeffrey Uzoma.